Welcome to day one of Natural Beauty Summit's Detox Your Beauty Regimen series. I'm Salome Sallehy, founder and president at Sugar Wax, a clean beauty company. And I'm honored to be hosting the interviews throughout the series with you. Now, long before I was in the beauty industry, I had become acutely aware of some of the harmful ingredients in our cosmetic and personal care products. As someone with sensitive skin and a myriad of skin conditions, I came to realize two important things. One, good skin begins from within. And two, everything that I put on my skin, on my face, on my hair, goes right into my system to some extent or other. After years of research and working with chemists to formulate my line for at-home sugary hair removal, I realized that most people that aren't in the industry or behind the scenes don't realize how toxic some of these products that we use every single day can be. So I made it my mission to help educate people so that they're better equipped to make healthier choices for themselves and their families. Now, prepare to be blown away because some of the things that I uncovered in this series surprised even me. So you're definitely in for some surprises. Now, before we go into the interviews, I do have some housekeeping items to cover. Every day, except for Sundays, you'll receive an email with the interview of the day and any other relevant links. Many of our speakers are generously giving away free tools and even products to help you along your detox journey. Some of these giveaways will be announced during the interviews, others may be communicated via email, and we will be doing a few prize pack giveaways on Instagram, so be sure to follow Natural Beauty Summit. Today I'm talking to Jean Godfrey-June, beauty editor at Goop. And we're going to be talking about the importance of detoxing your beauty regimen. She will also be sharing her journey into Goop, going way back to 5 years ago when it started in Gwyneth Paltrow's guest house. Without further ado, I give you Jean Godfrey-June. Welcome to Natural Beauty Summit. I have the great pleasure of kicking the summit off with Jean Godfrey-June, beauty editor at Goop. And to be honest with you guys, Jean has actually been a huge part of why we're here. So I'm really excited that she is here to help me kick it off. I think our first correspondence about Natural Beauty Summit was several months ago, and your encouragement and inspiration has really fueled the fire to get to this point. So thank you for being here, June.
Thank you. I'm so psyched to be here.
I want to talk a little bit about why we're here and why it's important right now, why this topic is important. And I think a great place to start would be if we can hear from you about your mandate in your role as a beauty editor at Goop. What drives your role? What drives you?
Well, when I started, I've been at Goop almost 5 years. It was about 30 people at that point, and we were working out of Gwyneth's guest house. And now we're almost 300 people. And so it's changed a lot, but one thing that has not changed is the mandate behind our stance on clean beauty, which is we're pretty strict in terms of what we will accept. And we have the same standards for anything we'll write about as well as what we carry on the site. So it's consistent across the board. And what motivated it originally is Gwyneth, as you may know, her father died of cancer, and that sort of woke her up to the toxins in the environment that we're exposed to every day. And it started with food, which was, going organic, cleaning products. And then when she found out, she, will laugh about it now. And she was like, I loved perfume so much, so I just had all these perfumes. And when she found out what was inside of a lot of those things and what she was spraying on her body and said, like being with her kids. So a lot of our readers do come to Goop for the first time because they're either pregnant or have little kids. And that's when they become aware and they think, I don't want this kind of chemical on my child. And then they're like, I'm also a person too. What might this do to me? So our clean beauty stance evolved from her personal journey with clean beauty. And I remember starting almost 5 years ago and thinking, there's no way I can, how am I going to write enough content? There's only these few brands in the space. And in this 5 years, as it's exploded. There's, people used to be like, is there a compromise? The makeup's not as good, or the skincare is not as good. We are not there anymore. And we weren't there, to be fair. When I started, there were a lot of great companies even 5 years ago, but it's exploded. Editing beauty starts with, looking at the inky before anything else. And we say no to, I would say 90% of what comes through. But then there are these great brands that do come through, and, we love them and our readers love them. And, we want Goop to be a place where you can read an article and get excited about something, or you can go shopping and get excited about those things. And either way, you don't have to worry like, oh God, is this bad for me? It's just a crazy, Gwyneth always says, where's the luxury in, worrying that you've got like some toxin in your product? Like you don't need it. It's not even food. It's not, it's a total luxury. So it should be a luxury in that you feel great about it. You aren't like, oh, I'm going to use this, I'm being bad. Nobody wants to feel that way,
Yeah, it's so true. And as consumers, I think it's really important to recognize that, like, even though there are these great organizations like Goop or like the Environmental Working Group and many others that are advocating for better policies and taking the guesswork out, the onus is still mostly on us to educate ourselves, which is
crazy. Like, you shouldn't have to educate yourself about something that somebody's, charging you a very high margin for.
Yeah.
That isn't a necessity, that isn't it's crazy. It's, I personally got interested in clean beauty long before that, when there was a convention that magazine, I was in magazines before Goop. I worked at Lucky and at Elle, and magazine editors, beauty editors used to have to go down to this convention that was all the beauty companies. And it's a lobbying group, and we were down there to just talk to the people who made decisions for advertising in magazines. We never went to the meetings. And one year, a very large consumer product company that was probably the biggest advertiser at most of our magazines said, all the beauty editors, you need to be at this meeting. And it was probably like 15 years ago, maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago. So we all went. They were like, we're taking names, you got to be there. So we went, and the CEO of that large consumer products company turned to us. The beauty editors were all seated in one place, and he was like, beauty products are safe, and it's your job as journalists to report that. And we were all kind of like, I never thought of beauty products as not being safe. I had no idea, what are the, and I remember going back to I had lunch with a CEO of a luxury beauty company when I got back to New York. And I asked him, I was like, well, you don't use these toxic products because your products are expensive. You can, and he was like, oh, you have to use those. You can't make money unless you use those toxins, And so even as a magazine editor, I got interested and was looking at, Burt's Bees, Weleda, companies, Dr. Bronner's, companies that were working in the space, So it's sort of, Goop was kind of the ultimate spot for me when it all came together.
Yeah, it's amazing, because I think some people, like, a lot of, if you've ever been pregnant, or you've had to deal with an illness, then the toxicity factor kind of comes to the forefront of everything you're doing. All of a sudden, like, why can't I eat that? Why can't I use that? Why can't I put that on my skin? And then you think about, like, as we talked in previously, um, what are we doing to ourselves that, like, maybe we're not as vulnerable as a fetus or someone who's sick, but like, if this is dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of, if you've been fortunate enough not to have to deal with illness, pregnancy, or any of that, then chances are that you're just sort of on autopilot and you're using whatever you're using and not really thinking about the health effects of it.
Yeah.
But for those of us, or for my journey was a little bit different because I became aware when I was pregnant, but then super aware when I started formulating. And I'm literally talking to chemists all over the world, Switzerland, France, Malaysia, all over. And to do something that's not like disgusting and toxic is really, really hard.
Hard, very hard.
But brands are doing more and more of it. And it's so encouraging to see that. But for our audience who are kind of embarking on this Detox Your Beauty Regimen journey, what do you have, like, what would you recommend as first steps? What are some easy first steps that they could start thinking about?
Well, I think for first steps, you want to go with the thing that's going to have the most impact. Uh, and it's hard to always figure out which, where you're going to have the most impact. One of the things that I think is the most important is sunscreen. Changing to a mineral only sunscreen, and by sunscreen I especially mean, the one that you're putting all over your body at the beach is one, but the other is your tinted moisturizer that you use every morning because you want to not look, you want to look your best and your youngest the longest. Chemical sunscreens are among the most irritating compounds in the beauty industry. Irritation, as we know, can cause inflammation and is at the root cause of aging. So why you would take a known irritant and put it on your skin every day, our everyday SPF is that hedge that we're hoping to protect our skin longer, and instead we're irritating it. So to me, that's like the no-brainer switch up. Also, if you're talking about something you're using at the beach, chemical sunscreens, I'm sure they kill coral. They, even in the concentrations that they're washing off of people and getting into coral, they're killing it. What is it doing to you also? But who wants to kill coral? No one. So mineral only sunscreen, and the way to tell mineral only sunscreen is there's a box on the back of the package that says active ingredients, and if there are any other ingredients other than titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, then it's not a pure mineral sunscreen. So it's real easy. And some of them they have a reputation of being harder to put on. The technology has gotten a lot better. And it's just like, it's a little hassle. If it bothers you, it's worth it. Like, what sacrifices do you make for beauty and for the environment in other areas of your life? It's totally worth it. So that's one that I'm like, that's a habit to change. There are such great brands in both spaces in terms of, just straight up sunscreen, but then also makeup companies that make amazing tinted moisturizer and foundation that have SPF in them and are not full of irritants.
And the good news is that we're actually talking, several of our speakers are touching on this exact topic of sunscreen. So it does come up quite a lot, and it's really relevant right now as we go into summer. I'm personally in the market for a good tinted moisturizer. So
Beauty Counter, View Skin. I sometimes go and like work in our stores, or when we do our in Goop health things, those big conventions. I'll sit there and be helping people pick out makeup, and that formula flatters everyone. It's SPF 20. It's in a tube, so it's good for the bag as well as and it's just, it was tinted moisturizer was one of the last things I went clean with when I started at Goop. I had this tinted moisturizer that I loved. I was like, I have to, have that one. And so then days that I didn't have like an important appointment or something or a date, I'd wear the beauty counter. I was like, I'll try this. On those days that I wore it, I'm not kidding. People would be like, what are you doing to your skin? Your skin just looks so good. Like it is in my opinion, the best formula out there. So check it out.
We'll be sure to link that as well on Natural Beauty Summit. Now, let's shift gears for a quick second because 2020 has been quite the year. I mean, first with COVID-19 and being sheltered in place for months on end and our lives being turned upside down. More recently with the Black Lives Matter movement, which has awoken America up. And now we have an election on the horizon. So definitely a lot of change, hopefully, for November. Much necessary change on the horizon. Now, as we think about our impact on the environment, on our health, on our communities, where does beauty and self-care fit into this journey?
Well, I kind of think I have a bit of a theory about the thing that COVID has done all kinds of awful things. And one of the side benefits of it has been that everybody's slowed down. Even if you're working, which I'm working from home, it's, busier than ever, but just not making that commute, makes a difference. Things have slowed down just a little for almost everyone in a way. And for me, I think that's part of the reason that we finally were able to see George Floyd. I think that, there are people who have come before him and died before him in brutal ways that are wrong. And we were all like, oh, that's terrible. And so I do think that it's a macro illustration of how slowing down a little, whether it's meditating, taking a bath, it has benefits that aren't like, oh, I look better the next day, or oh, I felt a little more relaxed and I wasn't so mad at my boyfriend or whatever it is. It's it can be something that you're not expecting and you're not seeing until you get there. So I do think there's always a role for, self-care can often sound very like a cliche and like some woman just taking a bubble bath. But slowing down, our society moves too fast and we lose something. We're starting to see what we lose,
That's a really good point. Yeah, even just like not having the stress of running late because of traffic.
Yeah.
Like it's made a remarkable difference in my life. And I am busier than I was before because now I have so many things to do.
Kids, you're doing everything, but you're a little more grounded. There's a little more something.
There's a lot more grounding. I think another part of it has been just before COVID, I think the busier we were, the more we were trying to outsource our lives. Like even like folding my laundry, I was like trying to outsource that because I could deal with it. But there is something really grounding in like doing it.
Taking care of yourself, yeah.
Taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of your home, being home, just being home. I think there's something grounding in that.
Yeah.
Finally, as we segue into this series, as a leader and an icon in clean beauty, yeah, you are. Any final thoughts as our audience embarks on this journey to health and better beauty?
I mean, your health is worth it. At the end of the day, your health is worth it, and you don't have to make compromises. that people will still say, oh, but this cream, is it as good as the, as the bad ones? And it's like, yes, a lot of times it's better. It's not full of fillers. It's not full of texturizers. It doesn't have an irritating fragrance in it that's going to make you old before your time, so the, sort of all of the impediments to going clean are pretty much out of the way. People will talk about price. There are great clean products at low prices, at super high prices. There are great not clean products at those prices. And so, I feel like it's a small thing compared to, everything that's going on in the world. But it is, everything starts with the individual and starts with how you take care of yourself and what you value in your life and what you want out there in the world. And that's another, every time you purchase something that's full of a toxic chemical that disrupts not just our endocrine systems, but the endocrine systems of all the other things on the earth, every time you buy that, you're voting for it and saying, yes, please make more of that, put it out into the universe. So it's a small thing, and it's not the most important thing in the whole world at this particular time, but I think it's definitely something worth doing. And when you get into it and you see whether you're going to Goop or Credo or any of the great places that celebrate clean beauty, there's every skincare, shampoo, makeup, everything. So fragrance, that thing that we've been taught to be especially afraid of. So yeah.
I think you underscore something really important that, you and I, we're in it every day, and we're seeing that the playing field has really leveled out for clean versus toxic, not great. Yeah, clean versus conventional products. So there's really great options, and there's really great brands doing cool things. So you guys get to reap the benefits of the best of both worlds. So let's get going on the summit.
So good.
Thank you for helping me kick this off, Jean. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure talking to you too. Have a good summit.
Thank you.